what's up? Jeff Ratcliffe here. Of any of the positions, running back has the most potential to make an impact out of the rookies. So let's break down the top 5 rookie running backs for redraft leagues here in 2019. We're going to start the list in reverse order at number 5 with Devin Singletary, who's now on the Buffalo Bills. Hey, Singletary fell down draft boards a little bit during the pre-draft process, failed to break 4.6 in the 40, but I tell you what this kid does have. He has a nose for the end zone. So a lack of speed, all right, maybe, but you can get away with that at running back more so than at other positions in the NFL. He scored 66 touchdowns over the last 3 years at the college level. So he has that ability to find the end zone. That's a good thing for fantasy purposes. And then you look at the landing spot in Buffalo, a team that is remaking itself, adding Josh Allen in the draft last year, getting younger across the board. And then you look at the running backs. Well, they're not young, right? Frank Gore and LaShawn McCoy, over 30 years old. No guarantee that both will be on the roster when we hit week 1. And even if they are, injuries happen to running backs, especially the older they get. So Singletary could be in store for a lot of work this season at some point. Now, he's not a guy we're going to prioritize in drafts. He's more of a late round dart, but he is an interesting name to keep an eye on. Regardless. Going to number 4, we're going to go with Henderson, and Henderson has received a lot of buzz recently, and he's definitely a buzzworthy player. 6.17 yards after contact per attempt last year at the college level. That's an outrageous number. He is so creative, so explosive, a big play waiting to happen. But why he's getting buzz isn't because of the college production. It's because he goes to the Rams as a day 2 pick, and we know the Rams have a pretty good running back there in Todd Gurley, but we also know that we don't know what's going on with Todd Gurley. Nobody knows the situation there with his injury. So it raises an eyebrow if you take a running back on day 2. Now, I think ultimately Gurley is going to be fine, but we're going to see a lesser workload for him than we saw last year. And Henderson comes in as a complementary piece who, of course, has that upside as a premium handcuff. There's a lot to like about Henderson. Going to number 3, how about Miles Sanders? We talk about pre-draft performance, not necessarily the best for Devin Singletary. It was awesome for Miles Sanders. He was a rock star at the combine, runs 4.49 in the 40-yard dash, jumps 36 inches in the vert. And what's interesting about him is he was the understudy for Saquon Barkley at Penn State. Then he goes to Philly. Now, Philly, of course, we know they added Jordan Howard in the offseason, and Jordan Howard really struggled in Chicago last year. He was not a fit in that Matt Nagy offense. And he kind of went to the same exact offense, right? Doug Peterson from that Andy Reid tree is going to run pretty much very similar things to what we saw in Chicago. So there was a question of fit. Then you bring in a guy like Sanders who has a 3-down skill set, who Howie Roseman, the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, also said reminds him of Eagles running backs past. Brian Westbrook, maybe? Possibly. I think that might be a stretch. But the fact that he has a 3-down skill set, the fact that he has a skill set that really fits in a West Coast offense bodes extremely positively for this rookie running back in Miles Sanders. So certainly like him, and I think he's going to make an immediate impact for Philly. He's going to be one of those guys that we're not going to look at maybe as a top 15 running back, but certainly as a top 25 running back on draft day and fantasy drafts here in 2019. Let's go to number 2. David Montgomery. Could there have been a better landing spot than Chicago for David Montgomery? I don't think so. And of course, we have the connecting, player in Jordan Howard here to Miles Sanders. And as I just mentioned, Jordan Howard struggled last year. Where he struggled wasn't between the tackles. He was fine there. He did what he was supposed to do. He struggled as a receiver. Jordan Howard's just not a pass catcher. He isn't, and that's fine. He does what he does. But David Montgomery can catch the ball out of the backfield, and that's really crucial in these West Coast offenses. And you know what else David Montgomery can do? Well, he can make people miss. Last year, 99 forced missed tackles that led the nation. That is outrageous. Now, to be fair, his offensive line didn't do him any favors, so he had to create a lot on his own. He's going to have a better situation in Chicago. But let's be clear about this as well. Chicago has an incumbent player in Tariq Cohen who's coming off a monster year with 70-plus catches last year. So how do these two fit together? When you look at it, who's the more prototype feature NFL back? Well, it's David Montgomery. And does Chicago really want Tariq Cohen to have that many catches? Maybe not. You know, we're going to see that ratio swing where it was predominantly Cohen as the receiver and very little Howard. We're going to see Cohen sort of his role reduce a little bit. He's still going to be a PPR option, don't worry about it, but a little bit so that there's extra meat on the bone there for David Montgomery. David Montgomery's an exciting guy, and I think he's going to be a 4th or maybe even 3rd round selection by the time fantasy drafts roll around in August and early September. But we have to get to number 1 first. And the number 1 rookie running back for redraft leagues here in 2019 is Josh Jacobs. He was the number 1 before the fact. He's the number 1 after the fact. He's the only running back to go on day 1, and we know that running backs just don't get drafted as early as they used to. But Jacobs was lightly used at Alabama because Alabama didn't have to use him. They had a fleet of running backs. So don't look at the college numbers and say, well, he didn't really do anything. Yeah, well, he didn't really have to do anything. And if anything, that lack of wear and tear is a good thing for Jacobs as he enters the NFL level. He also steps into an Oakland depth chart that really is wide open. We thought maybe Isaiah Crowell would do some early down work, but he's out for the year with a torn Achilles. So Jacobs is poised to be an every down running back. He's a guy who can run between the tackles, and we know he's darn good as a pass catcher. Last year, 12.4 yards per reception, which is a monster number for a running back out of the backfield. So he has that versatile 3-down skill set that is so optimal for fantasy purposes on an offense that could potentially be very exciting. Let's not forget, they added Antonio Brown. It's a very different look in this offense than what they had last year, and Jacobs is primed with loads of opportunity, loads of upside. He could be as early as a 2nd round pick in 2019 fantasy football drafts. If you want to check out the rookie rankings over at ProFootballFocus.com, we have you covered there for dynasty leagues and where do the rookies fit in our redraft rankings. You can also check those out at ProFootballFocus.com.